Hello everyone, how you all doing? Philip here with another video. So I recently released this animation wild entry at Revision 2020, which is the largest demo party that's happening out there. And it was made using the N++ level editor. N++ is a game developed by MetaNet, which is this page here that I wanted to show you guys. So it features a ninja that pretty much just has to reach the button that opens the exit and then exit. But there are a lot of levels and different entities and a lot of complexity entered to it. And it's also it's based out of an old Flash game called N, which was pretty much close to this. N++ is just the fourth version that they made of that game, and it just recently came to Steam. I got it for free through Steam gifts. Actually, I had to play to earn the game. It was a playing appreciated game, and I got addicted to it. I play it a lot, and it has a map editor, so I decided to start doing some levels out of it. So I was thinking of stuff that I could do for revision, and it came to me that I didn't have to code, which I was not feeling like doing. I could just try something different, which I did. I decided to make more levels of MetaNet. I was already doing a few levels, different experimenting with different kind of stuff in the game. There are a lot of little nuances to map making, which I will try to explain. And I decided to make some stuff that was demoscene related and get the demoscene vote that way. So I'm gonna explain the little memes and the hard things to do with the level editor, and hopefully I can explain the demoscene to the N++ people and N++ to the demoscene people. So first, what is the demo scene? Demo scene is people trying to make something out of the machine, like push the limits of the machine. And it's a culture that's been going for many, many years, since the late 80s. There's a lot of inner memes in it, and I wanted to capture some of those and put logos of famous demo scene groups, have sounds from different demos that are more known, and with that have a certain demo scene atmosphere to the stuff. One of the things that you see on demos a lot is a loading screen. That's why I decided to, the first level that I would do would be a loading screen. So I just mapped the simple map. The little ninja guy starts here, and it just goes through picking up the gold and triggering some mines along the way, and reaches the end. To hide the door, I actually had to make a special palette that would hide things. I will talk about custom palettes a while later, but for now, if you don't understand why this isn't showing, there's a door here and a switch. You can kind of see the silhouette of the switch. It's on top of that thing, but you don't see the rest. Anyways, that was the first screen. Then we had the simple hello world, which was on the demo scene. You usually the first time you do something on a machine, on a new machine, you usually type an hello world program to test if the machine is actually working. So I decided that would be cool to do that as a first effect, and also have some raster bars, which is a pre-known effect on the demo scene. Another very common effect on the demo scene is to do a twister. So I tried to do some version of a twister using N++. I don't know if this came across. It has the name of the level down here, but most people didn't really look at that. So yeah, this was the closest thing to a twister I could do. Then metaballs, it's also a very famous demo scene effect. I tried to do this 2D. They aren't really metaballs. They're not merging together, but they sort of move. I used mini drones for that, which is one of the entities that are available. I guess I should use this time to explain a little bit what are the limits of N++. And I will pause this for a second as I do that. So N++ allows you to have a map editor. You have a total of 8 different tiles that you can use. And they can be, well, these rounded shapes that you see here. These kind of slopes, very rigid slopes, and a halfway slope. So those are the kind of things that you have. You don't have any other kind of ways to platform. You can do a completely full block, and you can do a completely empty block, and those other 8 variants that you can also use. You can also use half a square, so like a rectangle, taking half of the space of a block, and you can rotate it. Of course, you have different ways, and with that you have a little leeway, but not that much. So you're a bit limited in what kind of stuff you can do. On previous versions of N++, you had a little more different kind of tiles, but for N++ they simplified it again, so you're a bit more limited in what kind of artwork you can do with the tiles. We usually call it the tile set that you use. You have some things called pathways, which is not pathways, one-way platforms, which are these things here. You can stand on them or you can go against them, but you can't go through them from the other side. So it's one way only. You can only go one way and you can't go back. And you can use that to do a few mazes and stuff like that the entities can attack you but you can't go through, so it restrains you a little bit. And you see it here, you see the drones going around and you have to actually go through that little maze without getting yourself hit. What's interesting about this screen in particular is that I'm using a trigger and they are hidden behind the gold. That's why you can't really see it very well. To trigger different stages of an IFS fractal. So what is an IFS fractal? It's a kind of fractal, obviously, that does iterations. You see it growing here and it will have another phase. And each time it iterates, it replicates itself and rotates itself a little bit, so it becomes more complicated, but it's a growing complexity. And this is one of the most famous forms of the IFS fractal. I think it's called the dragon. And as if you notice, there are some one-way platforms here. It's not everything made of trapdoors. And the reason for that is because there is a limit on the number of entities you can place inside a map. For gold and mines, it's a little bit bigger, the number that you can use, but for trapdoors, it's limited, and I just reached this limit by, I was missing, I think, 4 or 5, so I ended up doing this hack where I put some of these one-way platforms to do the rest of the fractal. So yeah, that's a limit that you need to be aware of when you are mapping something on N++, especially if you want to choose something that is bigger than usual, as I was trying to do on this specific map. So yeah, let's move on. And fractals are a very common theme on demoscene as well. That's why I wanted to include it. Another loading screen as if you were rebooting the game. And this is a trainer. A trainer is a very interesting thing. On the early ages of the demoscene, it was related to the cracking scene. And the cracking scene typically did trainers for games where you could tweak the parameters that were available, like have infinite lives or replace something or turn all enemies into bananas, something like that. And so I decided to replicate that vibe and have an N++ trainer where at some point in the game or in the demo that I was presenting, I would toggle on custom sound effects and custom palettes. And the sound effects is easily moddable on N++. There is a directory that is sitting on your computer. You can just go there, replace the file, the audio file with something else. Then the file name is pretty descriptive, so it's easy to alter. And the palettes is also kind of easy. By default, you don't see the directory there, but if you create a specific directory called palettes and put another directory there with the name of the palette that you want and 32 TGA files, there are well documented. You can just create a new palette. It's kind of hard, annoying to edit, but luckily there was a project being developed by Eddie and another person from the N++ community, Zara, was recently modifying, called the Palette Creator. And I helped do a few changes to this. Not much. This is a lot of their work. I didn't really do much on this editor. I just used it for my ends, and it's cool because you can load some of the palettes. You can change different stuff, and you can change like the color on the tiles. You can make them blue. You can make the background green. So you can customize the palette and then just export it, download it into your computer, put it on your computer. On your directory of the N++ game, restart the game, and then you can select it from the palette menu. By default, N++ comes with, I think, 32 palettes or something like that, but you can add your own custom palettes, and there are a lot of them already done by the N++ community, but I wanted very specific ones to match very specific logos from the demoscene group. So I had to do quite a bit of work to make sure everything looked okay-ish. Another thing that I wanted to mention is this I'll mention afterwards. What I wanted to mention is the file format for N++ is also pre-documented through the community. This was not given by the developers of the game, so they took a look at when you save a map, what stuff is there, the values, and they derived where everything is, where the entities are placed, where the tiles are placed, so you can by code do stuff that you wouldn't normally be able to do through the normal map editor, and this will come in handy a little while later. Another thing that I was helping the community with was they had this project where they were trying to get levels and high scores from the servers of N++ directly. And they had some of that working, but they didn't know all the queries available. So I had to do a few tests, and it wasn't easy to sniff the communication because it was behind TLS. But we managed to do some sort of proxy work um, to sniff out all the different queries, and this allowed the bot that we use on N++ community to be able to download user levels that were previously made, download high scores, do all sorts of different things. And downloading user levels that you already published is really good, because if you don't back up your level before you publish it, you have to recreate the whole level again. And for stuff like the IFS map that I showed you earlier, this would be like this map took me like a week to do, at least. Just placing all the trapdoors on the right place, and then suddenly you realize you don't have enough space. You can't select and move everything. You have to redo, move them one by one manually. So this was a lot of work to do. You can't really tell how much work. The tiles are relatively easy to lay out, but things like trapdoors, they're really annoying to set up and really hard to move around and place them better. So I was really happy to help out the community to figure out a way to be able to download maps, even to remix other people's maps that have been made before. I didn't really use them on this demo, but it's just a nice thing to have for the community. Anyways, moving on. The first custom level that I made was the Palm. This is taken from the Bjor demo, or actually 64K. But the palette is matching the TE2RB demo. I will try to open them very quickly on Poet here. So the first one that I mentioned is Bjor, which of course I type wrongly. So Bjor, this was a very famous demo, and it features the Tapom logo early on in the demo. Where is it? There we go. Here. No. Come on, come on. Don't make me edit the video. This one. So that one, I took this screenshot and I tried to replicate this somehow. It's sort of there, sort of there. And the palette that I chose, I decided not to go for these neon colors. I went for another very famous Tapom demo called TE2RB, which is, I can open this one, which is black and white, and it became very iconic. It's from the late 90s, and then it was ported to Windows in 2002 by Wister. And I'm from the group Tapom, so I had to put the first group Tapom. I even wanted to maybe release a demo as Tapom, but I thought it might not be very well taken, so I decided not to. Anyways, first level that I did, you added a lot of lasers because, Tapom needs lasers, stuff like that. Thank you, Gilks, for doing the all gold run on this. I managed to do it myself a few times, but it wasn't easy, so I used his replay on that capture that you saw. This is another level that I did. It features Hello Kevin, which is a very iconic character in the demo scene. You can see it here. It was released in 2017 at Revision. Very controversial demo because it doesn't really show the limits of what a computer can do. It's just very surreal and what the fuck. And it became iconic in the demo scene for good reasons and bad reasons. And also you can hear some samples already that are taken from the demo. Whenever the little ninja guy jumps, actually that's not taken from that demo. That's taken from another demo also made by Space Pigs called Spider Kim. At some point in Spider Kim, it's also a surrealistic demo, very weird thing. Was released at Evoke 2017, as you can see. And at some point, there is this dictator from North Korea speaking, and he says, "Johan, ein beer, please. Johan, ein beer." And he repeats that like 2 or 3 times, every time even more dramatically. And that made everyone at the party place start saying that saying of "Johan, ein beer. Johan, ein beer." So I decided to use those samples whenever the guy jumped, and you have like 5 different ways to do a different sound effect for the jump. I guess they just didn't want it to be boring, so I put a lot of those different samples there, and you can see it happening here. So this one went pretty well. Also wanted to replicate the weirdness of the teeth that he has. And you can hear an hello and well done, Kevin, in the end. Hello is a very important meme on the demo scene. At some point, I think in the early 2000s, there was, whenever someone said hello, the other person would reply, was? And at some point the party hall, one person on the one side of the party hall would shout hello, and everyone in the party hall would say vas in response. So this was a very big thing, and was brought up by or popularized by a senior that unfortunately committed suicide at some point, and it became a bit immortalized as well because of that. And some people even were like against using it for a while because of that, but then it kind of resurged and people still use it, which is still, I think it's a good tribute to him as well, and the good times that we had with him. This screen, it's the Amiga. I wanted to recreate the workbench to get all these entities. I decided not to do them by hand. This is a lot of work to do by hand. So this is all mines and trigger mines, by the way. So I used this script by Eddie, once again, which is a very active member of the N++ community. And he had a map generator of sorts. It's a bit better, but it does the trick. It transforms a black and white image into something without entities and an entity that you can specify. I altered it a little bit to have some gradients and have different entities on different places, but it's pretty much all his work. And it's based on the file documented the file documentation that the community had been building up. So these tools have been existing for a little while already. I just came along and used them, so props for Eddie for using that and helping me set it up as well, because I had a weird error on the Windows that he didn't have in Linux, and he helped me figure that out, what was wrong with that. So I converted the Amiga ball, pretty iconic, the name here as well. I tried to match the colors of Workbench as close as possible. Didn't completely succeed, but, you know, close enough. And you can hear another specific sample when you touch the ground here, which is from Second Reality, another famous demo, which I have loaded up here. Was one of the most iconic demos from the demo scene, and the sound you hear is I Am Not an Atomic Playboy, which is a break that they have in the middle of the demo. Another very iconic demo, an iconic sound sample that they had in the demo is 10 seconds to transmission, and I will use that later on as well. So two of the samples that were taken from Second Reality. Another sample that you just heard here was someone shouting Amiga, which is also very important on the demo scene, especially on the German parties. A lot of Polish people got very drunk, and they really loved their Amiga, so they started shouting while they were completely drunk, Amiga! Like during the PC compo, everybody's cheering for the PC, and everyone's like, Amiga! Amiga! So I decided to replicate that a little bit and have some shouts of Amiga. So whenever you hit a jump pad, you hear the shout of Amiga! Which I think worked pretty well. And at the end it says, well done, Kevin, which is also a sample from the No Kevin demo. Melon logo, also very iconic on the demo scene. Very old Amiga group. This is the Kueller's logo. Yes, it is a middle finger. And you could hear a bass sample whenever this laser fires. It's a bit muffled with the sound of the thingies, but it does say bass, believe me. This is the Farbrausch level, which was just the logo from Farbrausch. I had to do a custom palette for that as well. The most funny thing here is actually the particles exploding everything. So this is the How Job level. It also has a few things falling down, which has those samples from Second Reality. I just realized I don't have sound working. Playboy thing. Should be fine. You guys understood what I wanted to talk about anyways. Well done, Kevin. So this level in particular is by Lunatico. It was a very famous C64 demo that came out a few years ago. And this is from Robbie's Yarik, which is a funny demo that was a recurring meme on the demo scene as well. which was a birthday demo released, very fast-made release to celebrate a demo scener's birthday. And everybody started submitting that demo at different demo parties. So it was released like 20 different demo parties, and people would go up on stage and do the head dance acti, which went like moving the arms like in the silly thing. So it's a pretty big meme on the demo scene. This is the logo from Mercury, a demo scene group. You can hear the Amiga sound because there is actually a very interesting trick here going on. If you put some pads going diagonally near the wall, you can force the ninja to go through the wall. This is a glitch. It's not supposed to work like this on N++, but I've seen a few maps doing it, and I reappropriated it for logos that had like a closure environment, so that it would be possible to actually have the logo and go inside the logo and outside. So I thought that was a little cool touch to include, and I used it here for this Mercury thing. I was trying to do an all gold run here, but I failed that little one, so I committed suicide. This is the Pooh Brain logo. I know it's not really very understandable, but it is also converted using the tool and a lot of Amiga sound. This is the Logicoma logo, should also be easy to see. This map is actually interesting because if you don't grab a wall or the one-way platform when you are falling, you splat the ninja down. So this was actually pretty hard to achieve technically. So it wasn't me that did this. You can also try to jump a few times, do a few wall jumps here, touch this and try to hug the wall on that side, but it's really, guys, it's almost just outside the reach, so it's really hard to accomplish that as well. So this is actually a very technically, well, not extremely technical level, but it's not for the first time player of N++ to accomplish this. Moving on, what else we have? This is the Limp Ninja level. It's one of the first levels that I started making because Limp Ninja is this very easy to make logo, so it was one of the first ones I tried to recreate, and I ended up making a very difficult level with a lot of rockets, which are quite hard to dodge. Like this sequence in particular is like insanely hard. I probably couldn't pull this off. It was Gil X3 that ended up doing this all gold run. Thank you so much for that. I challenged him to do it, and at the end he said I should have been paid to do this because it was that hard. And that's it. The last level that I had was the revision logo, also converted using the tool. And I had a few troubles getting this working. I wanted to do a race with 4 members, but there is a weird thing with the race mode on N++ that you can max the 300 gold limit or time bar limit, but whenever you catch some gold, that limit bounces up, so you ended up using it really fast. So I ended up doing a co-op thing and just use it for the end credits. It didn't really turn out as I wanted, but it's good enough to have the Revision logo there. Revision is the demo party that this was released at, so I think it was a nice touch for the audience watching. And that's it. I used music from Genox, an old friend of mine from the demo scene that just recently re-released his EP at Enough Records, my net label, enoughrecords.scene.org. You can download the music there, free for download. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this little explanation video. If you have any questions, feel free to put them on the comments below. See you next time. Bye bye everyone. Take care.